It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined by Kenn Young. He is the superintendent for Riverside County. So we're heading toward the end of the summer, and I want to speak with you about that summertime period and what happens to students, and we can kind of break it up K-5, 6-8, 9-12, during that summertime period.
Well, it's interesting, Brad. There's a variety of different things happen with students during the summertime, but what we find is that students that have access to enrichment activities, to additional education experiences, those students progress in their education. They actually gain over the summertime.
And let's face it, who has access? Middle income and higher income students.
Right, right.
You brought me a chart. It really says it all. John, hopefully you can zoom in on this. It's so clear. You look at the trajectory. The lower line is the lower income students. That's the blue line
Right.
for these purposes. The higher line is the middle income students. And the gap gets larger and larger as you go from K to 4.
And it gets larger because during the summertime, there are a group of students that are progressing. They're actually gaining from where they ended in June. They're actually ahead in their achievement come the fall when they go back to school. There's another group that actually loses ground each summer. And it's really because of what they have access to. And so this year we're starting to see, let me back up. During the recession, funding was cut by 20% to school districts. Mm-hmm. So basically they got down to the core subjects during the school year. Summer school almost evaporated. And so that left a lot of students without summertime learning opportunities. Students need a variety of different things during the summer. But now that funding is coming back, we're seeing districts starting to expand their summer offerings. You talked about grade levels, elementary, middle, and high school.
Right.
It's really important in elementary school for students to have access to additional reading. That's a key thing, and that's where students, and even students that don't have access to summer school, if their parents will take them to the library, get them a library card, get into some of the library reading programs for the summertime, students actually can keep up with their grade level or progress.
Are there public schools in this county or otherwise that provide mandatory reading over the summer?
Well, as far as mandatory, I don't.
I know that's a strong word.
Yeah, but I think that strongly encouraged. I think it's strongly encouraged in almost every school district across the county.
I know some independent schools, private schools, that, and there's a reading, there's a quote mandatory reading. You know, it's only one or two books.
So if you're going to be taking an AP class and you're in high school, definitely there's some mandatory reading over the summer. But generally for the lower education, the lower grade levels, probably not like that.
Okay, so K-5, your recommendation, and this applies, for the next 100 years. This is relevant. Get them reading.
Get them up reading up to grade level number 1 in elementary school. Number 2 is let them use some, if they have access to the internet, let them get involved in some online mathematic games or things that will help them increase their mathematics skills.
I want to get a sense from you about video games.
Okay.
I have a certain view that may diverge from others, and I will tell our viewers my view. I'm not a huge opponent of video games, because in my mind, at least it's getting the mind going. Some of them may be too violent, but I'd rather this than just staring. Yeah.
So, comment, I think you hit one of the nails on the head, which is violence. I think video games that teach violence, that encourage violence, help encourage violence in our schools and society. So I think that's not a good thing. I think there are some critical thinking skills by the kinds of games that have some embedded, really deep cognitive activities in them are good. But then there becomes the challenge of not letting someone become obsessed with the game. They don't want to turn it off even for meals. They just want to keep going.
And that can happen.
Yes.
So it's a balance.
It is a balance.
Okay, 6-8.
6-8, middle school grades. Those are a grade level where there's some great opportunities during the summertime for some enrichment activities. This could be sports. It could be taking lessons, piano lessons, swimming lessons. It could be reading. It could be visiting places.
So it could be athletics. It doesn't necessarily need to be kind of traditional academics.
It doesn't, because there's a lot of discipline, leadership that comes from that. If parents have the ability to take any kind of a venture out of the community a little bit, exposing their, I mean, we have children who have never been to the beach. We have children who have never been to the mountains. And so it's not that far away. It's not that expensive to do that.
Let's talk about high school, 9-12, because that is a tricky time in terms of summer school. Right. You know, when I was growing up, when you were growing up, summer school for 9-12 was for remediation, was to take after 12th grade because of you failed that class and need to get your diploma.
Right.
But it doesn't need to be seen that way, and it isn't necessarily that way.
So summer school for high school these days probably has a couple of different elements. One is definitely to help students who failed a grade and want to take the class over so they have a better GPA to be able to do that. Students who need credit, additional credit to graduate. That's a big piece of high school summer. But the other piece of it is students want to take certain classes during their senior years or their regular school year, and they don't have enough room in their regular schedule. So they need to clear up some space on that schedule by taking a class during the summer. They'll take PE sometimes during the summer. They'll take an arts, you know.
My nieces, for example, they took throughout their career in high school, every summer, one academic class to get it out of the way so that their load would be eased. What's interesting, though, is I've spoken with some superintendents at some local area schools in Riverside County and otherwise, and they have told me that at this stage, most summer school is still dedicated to remediation in 9-12.
So that's probably a factor based upon the funding formula that they are getting with the state and how much money that they have. Districts that have a high percentage of students that are in poverty, that are English learners, they're going to have a little more resources coming in from the state. They can offer some additional courses. Not all of that's remedial. Some of those things are enrichment classes. Some of those that funding can use to help students be able to carry a load in their junior and senior year that will better prepare them for post-secondary.
So do you feel as if we're heading back toward, or heading toward a model where, yes, there's some remediation, but there is some opportunity for students to take that extra class?
I definitely do, and one of the reasons why I think it's important to talk about this subject today is because when we understand what happens during the summer, we realize that that's an important way to close the academic achievement gap, by making the summer an integral part of learning. Because right now it's a place where the gap is widening.
Right.
And if that summertime is used properly, it can, by the school and by the family and by the student, that gap can be narrowed down to next to nothing.
So if you ask my kids, and I'll just use myself as an example, I could be called a tiger dad. I mean, I'm pretty hard. And you know, now they're entering 5th grade, entering 7th grade. And I'm wondering at what point do I need to acknowledge, and I'm sure many of our viewers would agree, that summer is at some level to decompress.
Yeah.
And there's a reason kids have summer, because turn off the TV, go read, go do your math workbook, or is it enough already?
No, I think when I was a student in high school and in middle grades, I used to live for the summer because we took a vacation, and I used to look forward to that. And I think there's a balance. I think there's a balance between don't stop the learning. Keep it going. Because during the school year, what we see, Brad, is that the students of all socioeconomic levels grow about the same rate during the year. It's the summertime where there's the gap gets wider.
And that really says it all. In so many ways. Yes, socioeconomic status can be an indicator of academic success, but not necessarily.
Well, the report from Johns Hopkins says that 2/3 of the gap is actually created during the summertime by this lack of opportunity and access to things. So summertime, I think, can be a blend of academics. It can be a blend of recreation, downtime, if the parents can provide some vacation enrichment activities.
What about for low-income families that just don't have access? What are the public schools offering?
Well, one of the things is that there are public libraries in every city. And so public libraries, almost all of them have accelerated reading programs for the summer. I was talking to somebody recently whose child is a kindergartner going into 1st grade. They've read 250 books so far during the summer. They make a trip to the library
Those
every
picture
week.
books and small chapter books.
Yeah, small chapter books. They've gotten past the picture book part.
Fantastic.
But their goal is to hit 300 this summer.
I think that's terrific. Okay, Kenn Young, thank you so much for joining us. Great insight. Take it to heart. His name is Kenn Young. He is the superintendent for Riverside County. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.